Hello and welcome to In the Light, Growing Your Soul with me, Anna Isabel. And I'm delighted that I have Lyn Birkbek back. I thought I'm going to have to say that again. Oh, well, you're here today because I was very curious about your book, The Sabian Symbols of the Astrological Oracle. And there's no better place to start than with the Sabian symbols themselves. Tell us what they are.
Right, they're simply images for each degree of the zodiac, of which there are, of course, 360. How they were divined, because they were, was by a famous astrologer called Mark Edmund Jones and a lady who was a cripple who was a clairvoyant called Elsie Wheeler. And he went into Barbea Park in San Diego one day, all with a bunch of cards, blank cards, and on cue she would visualize. That was her talent. She could visualize on cue. So with each card, he penciled on the back at random each degree number, and she would tell what she saw, and he would jot it down on the card. And that's how it was done, all in one day. So it's going some. What he reckoned later, that they were contacting some occult brotherhood from ancient Mesopotamia who were called the Sabians. And they were actually led by Hermes Trismegistus, who was a hell of a dude. He was, he's down to one of the three main avatars of this planet. That's along with Jesus and Buddha. And so quite a good pedigree, really. And in my book, literally, it lives up to it. It's first of all, he wasn't too sure about it, Mark Edmund Jones, and he gave it to his pupils, who were actually called the Sabians, and to see if they could make anything out of it. And they came back saying, yeah, this works. Yeah. There's two ways, basically, actually, more than two ways, but basically two ways you can use them, either in reading a birth chart or as an oracle. All right. I used it for both. I've devised other ways of using it, which are quite good fun. One way I remember was, I haven't done it for a while actually, was the Sabian symbol walk, where you'd work out the ascending degree for each hour or each half hour, whatever you wanted to do it at. And for that degree, you'd get a Sabian symbol. And when you got to that time, you'd look for it wherever you were walking.
I like that.
And there's a couple of really wonderful occasions. One was a good one. I'd just begun to be involved with my wife. And so it was our kind of honeymoon period. And we were up by the stone circle near me, which is called Castle Rig. And we'd been on this walk, Sabian symbol walk, with a friend. We enjoyed each hour when we saw things, but at that time he got to the stone circle and I hadn't drawn up the symbol for that rising degree at that time. So I thought, well, I'll look it up when I get back. And what we were doing there, we were sitting on the wall surrounding the stone circle, just wondering about it all. When I got back, the Sabian symbol for the sun, sorry, for the rising degree, was two lovers sitting on a fence, two lovebirds sitting on a fence. And it's so nice. And there's another one as well, actually quite a complex one. I went out with a friend who's a wonderfully kind of psychic person himself. He makes events happen around him. And the last degree symbol we were looking for was 27th degree of Aries, and it was a lost opportunity regained in the imagination. And where we got to on our walk, we couldn't see anything that looked like that at all. And so we were a bit disappointed. All the other degrees had been good. We got back and he had to go home the following day. And as he was going, he couldn't find his hat. He had a black Astrakhan hat, which he was very attached to. He had it since the year dot. And we're looking high and low for it. And I saw what I thought was it on top of a dresser. I thought, oh, here it is. It was a black tea cozy. I thought, oh, never mind. So we had to go. I dropped off at the station. When I got back home, I thought, oh, hang on, that's tea cozy. That's normally kept in that drawer over there. I went to the drawer, and there it was. There was his hat. Obviously, someone had mistaken the hat for tea cozy. And there was the lost opportunity to regain any imagination. So that's how it works. Yeah.
Like that. I like that very much. I love the whole concept, actually, because really you're very much engaging with synchronicity there, and
Right.
the signs and omens.
Yeah.
What I like about the Sabian symbols is when there is a particular transit, to check the degree of that transit to the planet that's being transited for further insight. And it is quite inspiring, actually, when you use it like that as well.
You're using the degree of the planet, of the transiting planet.
So let's imagine, for right now, I'm going through a Saturn square to my sun.
Nice.
So I would, yeah, I know it's loads of laughs. So, but in order to perhaps understand more about what this transit is bringing to me,
Yeah.
I have looked at the Sabian symbol for the degree of my sun,
Which is
with 24 Taurus. And
okay, go on.
and
I can't remember all 360 degrees.
Found that very, very interesting, because it's, I guess what it's doing for me is it's highlighting a theme that is with me, but which is being perhaps accentuated at the moment.
Right.
So it's giving me further insight into this particular transit and what it's asking of me. And of course I can, and also look at the degree that Saturn is currently in as it's squaring my sun.
Oh, that's what I thought you were talking about. 24th degree of Aquarius.
It would be Aquarius, yeah.
For our viewers.
For our viewers, yes, indeed.
I think it's a man turning his back on his passions. And is that the one? Let's have a look. Yeah, a man turning his back on his passions and teaching from experience.
And so there it is. So I think playing with that imagery is highly evocative for me. And I can meditate with it. I can do all sorts of things. And also, of course, I do this for my clients too. When I'm looking at transits, I can look at both, and that again inspires me with something that might be insightful for them, further insight for them.
Yeah, it ripples in on and on. Now, just before you go any further, I'm quite sure you being a Virgo astrologer, I'm not making this error. But people often get confused at what degree a planet or anything is on. So it's you're 24 something, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's a 25th degree. Yeah, a large, well-kept public park is actually the degree. 24th is a mountain India with scalp rocks. So it makes a big difference, but it's very common error. Very common error.
Well, what I found is that there's something, I quite like the one that's for 24 degrees as well.
Quite. Yeah. All roads lead to Rome.
Yeah, it makes it, in the context of my chart, that's the thing I found, is that in the context of the chart, the themes that come up with the Sabian symbols, it's like it's consolidating a theme.
Oh, indeed. Oh, very much so, especially if you used it kind of religiously over time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I call in my book oracle storming.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yes.
And so you can really go track it every hour if you want to.
So the other part of your, yes, as you did track it every hour, didn't you?
Yeah.
Looking for your signs. So the second part of the title of your book is of the astrological oracle.
Yeah.
And of course, we were talking about, the cards and oracle, etc. What do you think? What is an oracle? I think that would be a good thing for people who aren't familiar with it.
Yeah, well, I think the closest any kind of system which it uses synchronicity, really. Well, one thing coinciding with another. Tarot cards are very oracular, whereas astrology isn't strictly oracular, unless you're doing horary astrology, which has become more oracular. So what oracle means really is simply like it's the divine speaking to you. And so you need some kind of medium via which to do that. And of course, you can use anything from I Ching to the tarot to Sabian symbols to animal entrails, as they used to do in the old days. So an oracle is a very interesting thing. Also, I think you have to be very careful with, because you can overuse it and muddy the waters. And yeah, it's tricky, but it's subtle, as you're finding. I remember once, how did it go now? Yes, I asked. Okay, I'm not going first. Yeah, that's right. I did a lot of work in preparation for the astrological oracle. I asked about 3,000 plus questions. So I wasn't just doing it in an abstract way. I was doing it very practically. But one night rather, about 4 in the morning, I got very frustrated because I think, well, how do I ask a question of the oracle which is about the oracle? Because that would sort of be like, I don't know what it's like, but it sort of made my head spin. But then I woke up with an idea, I know, and I asked it, who are you? And I got the 16th degree of Taurus, which is an old man attempting vainly to reveal mysteries. And so I thought, yeah, you got it. That's who you are, right? And that had a kind of corollary with a workshop I gave sometime later on the Sabian symbols and using them as an oracle. And I asked the members of the workshop, first of all, to imagine what the oracle was like as a thing or a being to address when they were asking questions of it. And this Italian lady, who was quite sweet, and she was quite embarrassed. She said, well, I see an old man, right, who's trying to tell me how everything works. And she said he reminded me of Carl Jung. I thought, all right. And I thought, Carl Jung's moon is on the 16th degree of Taurus, an old man attempting vainly to reveal the mysteries. So see what I mean? If you do your detective work, it comes up trumps. But you've got to keep to the same rules all the time.
There are a couple of things that came to mind when I was reading your book. The first was, it did remind me, there are things about it that remind me of the I Ching, because it's so poetic. The imagery reminds me of that. But then there was something else, which is, you were talking about rules for asking a question.
Yeah.
Which made me think of horary, for which there are rules about how to ask a question. So if we're approaching the Sabian symbols as an oracle, what do we need to keep in mind in terms of the questions that we're asking?
Well, asking how long or when is usually a bit of a hardly to nothing, because that's, in my experience with most occult matters, they don't do the when and how long, because time is slippery, and quite rightly so. There's two extremes here. One, when you're going to ask a question, really ponder on it, so you get it really firmly placed in your mind and you're focused on it and you're feeling it. Because I think what an oracle is responding to, because an oracle is an occult matter, it deals with psychic energy. So the psychic energy that you're building up around your question is important. So you've really got to want an answer and mean what you say. You're not going to just flippantly say, you know, when am I going to win the pools or whatever, win the lottery, you know. You have to be earnest. Yet the paradox is, often it's more kind of throwaway. You just spontaneously ask a question, it comes up with a clearer answer. And then there's a third one where often it'll tell you something that you're really concerned about, but you're not looking at it. So it'll bring you up short and say, tap you and say, isn't that really what you're thinking and feeling about? So the subtle, if nothing else, a good oracle is subtle, because really it's you're interfacing yourself with yourself, really, and that's an interesting process.
It's very open to interpretation as well, which of course is the beauty of it. And you just said it's very open, and it's very different to say horary, which is a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Here it's, and that's why I was thinking of the I Ching, because of that openness as well. I think if used in a spirit of inspiration, there's tremendous potential for it. But where does destiny or self-fulfilling prophecy come in here?
The big ones, okay. How much can you kid yourself comes into it as well. Well, a thing that I've been doing recently, I think this helps to answer this question or address this issue. I have been writing a poem. I know maybe I mentioned this last time. I'm writing an epic poem. And I'm going all the time, is this worth doing? You know, because it takes quite a lot of energy and time to do it. And I fluctuate between very inspired and enthusiastic and being, oh, I'm wasting my time here. And why am I bothered to do this? And so I've been asking the oracle pretty regularly about tracking it, as I say. And it's always consistently encouraged me to carry on. And I'm always covering in different facets of my intent and of my doubt, kind of nurturing me towards something. So you might not really know why you're doing it, but you've got to keep on doing it for a reason you'll find out as you carry on doing it, kind of thing. And that's been very important to me, because it's really playing in, and the oracle will comment upon this, is playing into a part of my personality and history where I've been reluctant to write something like poetry. Although I've always written poetry most of my life, I've always been reluctant to go into a higher gear with it for a reason I shan't go into now, but it's to do with an English master at school who ridiculed me in front of the whole class. That'll do. So writing fiction became a kind of a difficult zone. So I've written 9 astrology books, but they aren't fiction. Although some people, of course, would say they were. And that's another thing, is these lines, but these fine lines between fact and fiction. So what was the other thing, part of your question about self-fulfilling prophecy, was it? Or wish fulfillment? Yeah, indeed. If you ask the oracle about, say, am I kidding myself? And I'm not going to expect a yes, no answer. It'll just comment upon that question. And it might give me a very subtle, if I did that now, for instance, I'll be dangerous here. I'll be daring, rather, and dangerous at the same time. Now this is an oracle. This is the oracle as an app, which is called Astro-Oracle, and it's available for iPhones only. I can't afford to do it for the other one as well. What's the other one called? Android. Yeah, so very useful. And it's only a few pounds. So I go to Astro Oracle, and that's the window. Can you see it there?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that full moon.
Yeah, it's right. It's like a moon within 8 moons. It's quite hypnotic, actually. So you're just going to clear your brain and go, what was I talking about? Wish fulfillment and as against what? Reality or whatever. It's the problem of wish fulfillment, yeah? Or
Yes.
the Sabian symbol here is one I don't like. It's dental work. Right? And the subtitle is Maintenance and Tenacity. Right? So it's all about, it says this is a general interpretation, a time or situation calling for inspection, necessary repair and generation, or for the creation of constant demand through persistently and regularly making it known that what needs taken care of must be so. So in relation to the question, it's like saying, well, you've got to examine yourself, and otherwise you'll suffer pain for not detecting faults, cavities in time. So that's what Will was saying to me. I have 4 sections in the book and in this Astro Oracle. That was the general section. There's also a karma, health, attitude section. And it says here in the karma section, the planet that governs teeth in astrology is also the one that rules karma, Saturn, the lord of karma. So this symbol is saying that some kind of reparation is due and could be for some time. That is, until the problem has been eliminated and matters stabilized. So it's saying that the issue of, in my case, of wish fulfillment or that kind of thing, is a thing I have to be eternally watchful about and not let it get out of hand. See what I mean?
Yes. And this relates to your poem, How?
No, this is not. Oh, you could say I was talking in general terms.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking and feeling. Okay, that was what my psychic energy was about. But if I was going to ask about my poem now, exposing myself to you, as it were, and your viewers, it is viewers, not listeners, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So I'd ask about that. I've got this symbol, 28th degree of Leo, which is many little birds on the limb of a large tree. And as I'm talking about a product, a book to publish possibly, I look at the money and creativity section. And it says the great and the small, it's a subtitle. The big fish, little fish setup, which totally characterizes the material world of commerce and ambition. Statistically, it is more likely that you are a little fish or bird rather than a big fish or large tree, simply because there are more littles than bigs. So this symbol is emphasizing that you are up against a lot of competition as you try to find or keep a foothold on whatever the large tree or big fish happens to be. So it's warning me that, yeah, when you're out there in the marketplace, you'll have to contend with all of that.
Yes, indeed.
So it's not criticizing the poem. It's just saying what it'll be in for. And I often get that kind of stuff, which I hate.
Being told you're a little bird rather than a big one is not exactly what you want to see, is it?
But then again, it's horribly true. Because if anybody who's had a book published or tries to get a book published or anything published, like the record mail or whatever, it's hideous. I mean, it's the dog-eat-dog world.
Yes, it is pretty brutal. So basically what we're saying is that there are 2 ways of using the Sabian symbols. The first is married to the chart, where we're looking at the chart and looking up whatever degrees of the chart we're interested in exploring.
Yeah.
Or the transits. The second is completely divorced from the chart, apart from the fact that the symbols themselves come from each degree of the zodiac.
Yeah. Although often when they coincide, if say I'm asking about an issue as an oracle, and I get a degree which is the degree of a planet in my chart, or a point in my chart, then it kind of doubles up its significance, if you follow me.
So in a sense, what we're looking at here is we can say, well, at what point does this stop being astrology? Because we are separating it from a birth chart or a consultation chart. The two have no relation to each other. On the other hand, what are we actually doing? Are we exploring by using it as an oracle rather than in conjunction with a chart? Are we exploring the synchronicities more tangibly?
Yes, that one. It's subtle because, for instance, when I'm preparing for a client, I might get to a point where I go, well, which way does that go? You know, a certain aspect or planetary position. It'll be hard to say which way a person has gone with it. So I'll ask the Sabian Symbols of the Oracle to give me a clue to help me there. So it's all about this tracking. It's like detective work. A good detective doesn't ignore a whole bunch of clues because they come under a different heading. All right, they're still clues. I'm very firm about that. There are no really that clear demarcation lines between astrology and not astrology. Astrology, in some respects, is everything. It is, in my books, is the biggest subject known to man. It truly is cosmic. So I don't think the gods of astrology are sniffing at the Sabian Symbols.
No, and I think what grabs my imagination is the fact that by looking at synchronicities with the Sabian Symbols and links between the Sabian Symbols and the chart through transits, etc., and seeing the links there, we're getting a glimpse of the cosmic mechanics by which astrology works, which is, of course, synchronicity.
But synchronicity is a thing in itself, isn't it? I mean, it's not something you can kind of cook up yourself. By its very nature, it's out of our hands. Although, synchronicity for me is like, I'm a person that reads signs and omens and agreements. It's like the Sabian symbol walk. They're signs from above, from within, however we want to put it. I'm with a friend of mine. We went out. The first degree we had to look for was the human soul open to inspiration. And at that second, 2 buzzards flew out of a tree right by us, and that's quite rare. And it was like, what? And so it all depends how much you're engaging with it. Are you living the dream, living the magic, or just pretending to?
Yes, I think there's just so many thoughts there. And I was coming back to, yes, that's what I was thinking. When we're practicing astrology, which for astrologers, it's like breathing, we're just doing it all the time.
Yeah.
I can remember once having a terrible fever and calculating with this fever in a semi-delirious state, the transits that I was going through and when the fever would break. And then remembering, I think about 2 days later that I'd done that, I went and checked and I was absolutely right. So yes, when we're practicing astrology, it's kind of just there all the time. And we all, I'm sure, have experience of people embodying the energy of the planets that are transiting us at a particular moment, for better or for worse. If you're
For
going
sure.
through a Pluto square or a Pluto opposition, you'd rather not meet Pluto in the flesh, and yet
But you
occasionally,
do,
well,
yeah, yeah.
more often than not, you do. And equally, if you're going through Jupiter transits, you may well meet Jupiter in the flesh, and that manifests as the person being the agent of this planetary energy, quite literally being the sign that's ruled by that planet, i.e.
Yeah.
a Scorpio or a Sagittarius or Pisces. And that happens. So this is the living oracle, or the living energy that is synchronicity. So and if you think that that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, then watch it happen to your clients who know nothing about astrology
Precisely.
and who experience it, and astrocartography as well, where you don't know necessarily your astrocartography chart. You're an astrology student, you discover your astrocartography chart, and suddenly you realize that you've got a particular line going through a part of the world. Let's say it's a Mars line, and every time you've been there, there's been some drama or stress, or you're beginning to wonder if every person who comes from that particular part of the world is somebody you need to be careful of. And lo and behold, you find that.
Yeah, if I just said it, because before I lived here, where I'm living now, one of the IC line is on Mars here, right? It's on my Mars is on there. Yeah. So whereas a little further west, I go onto my Neptune and Venus line. And when I live further west, I have a far more poetic, romantic, dreamy time than when I've been here, which has been a bit marshy. In fact, I've been injured several times since living here. But I've done a lot more though than I would have done in the dreamy West. So again, it's like, well, who knows what's good for you? Because if you ask what you prefer, I think I prefer that Venus-Neptune line rather than the Mars. But there you go. What is fate?
And that is, again, something, a theme that you can't avoid when you're talking about oracles. What is fate? Destiny? Where does free will come into this? And I guess really it would be good to think of life as a symphony, in which there are many different instruments, and you either accept that and realize that you're part of this symphony, and occasionally you really see the rest of the orchestra on stage, or you just pretend that you're doing a solo act, but then wonder occasionally where the extra sounds are coming from.
Now, it's funny you should say it, because I was working up to discussing as an example of both oracular use and horoscope use of the Sabian symbols of one's moon. And my moon, what you just been talking about, reminds me of my moon, the Sabian symbol of my moon. The Sabian symbol of my moon is a celestial choir singing. And the astrologer Dame Roger, he subtitled that one, The Music of the Spheres. And I have my moon in the 10th house, the house of career and profession. And I've been two things in my life. One is a musician and two is an astrologer. and it jumps to further. The Sabian symbol of my midheaven, the point that symbolizes one's position in the world, is a man expressing himself in two realms at once. So this is all how we track it.
It's a beautiful. I love the Sabian symbols. I think I've made that quite clear, because apart from anything, I love the poetry behind them.
Me too. Mm.
It's just, it stimulates or invites us to explore the magic of our world.
Indeed.
And as astrologers, we're all for that, I think.
Yeah, as I said, the Sabian symbol walk is a great way of doing that, because you really are plotting yourself into synchronicity. And it also challenges the magical part of oneself. Because some people who are very down to earth and don't believe in this kind of thing, well, they don't get that kind of thing happening to them. You know, what you are is what you get. In fact, there's a lovely quote, I don't know where it comes from, in the beginning of the Astrological Oracle book. And I'm going to try and find it now, hang on. Yeah, we are. What we make of our lives can be done in a moment, and of those moments we make our lives.
Perfect.
Really, I don't know where it comes from. My mother used to say it. I don't know where she got it from, but it's stuck in my head.
Well, I think that is something to leave us with some food for thought.
Yeah.
Lyn, so much for sharing your wonderful knowledge of the Sabian symbols with us today.
My pleasure.
And I'll be putting a link to Sabian symbols, the Sabian symbols of the Astrological Oracle in the description box. Lyn, if people want to find you and learn more about your work, what do they do?
Well, go to my website, which is lynbirkbek.com. LYNBIRKBECK. And if you go to the website, you go to the Sabian symbol page, you'll find where you can get the actual book, and also where you can get the oracle for your phone, and many things besides.
Fantastic. Well, I'll be sure to put that in the description box. Thank you very much once again.
Okay, see you later.
And thank you all for watching. Do remember also that you can check out my website to see courses that I'm running, and also other aspects of my work. And next time we'll be looking at cooking and astrology. Until then, goodbye.